All right, welcome guys. Pretty excited today. Another edition of the Running Journey. I'm Rob. I'm your guest host. I guess I'm your host. My guest today, a pretty impressive guest. I'm excited to have her here. She's joining us live from Ottawa, from Parliament Hill, just outside Parliament Hill, where she has been speaking and sharing her knowledge with the federal government. And I'll let her talk a bit about that. But Marlene Bagatto. Marlene, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for the invitation, and it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, we met. So Marlene and I, here's what today's episode is going to look like a little bit. I want to talk a bit about Marlene and how she got into running and why she decided to come run a marathon with me in New Brunswick. And then I want to talk a bit about CMV and what she does for CMV. And obviously it's the number one reason why Run with Rob exists, and I think why Marlene came out and decided to run. It's not because I'm a cool guy. It probably is a little bit because I'm a cool guy, but probably not. And then I want to talk a bit about Marlene's running goals, and we're going to talk about that, funny stories and stuff as well. So Marlene, you came out and decided to run with Rob in New Brunswick. That was a couple of weeks back. How do you feel?
I feel good. The first day after, I was not so good. I was sore, I was tired, but I feel great now. Yeah, it was a great experience, super fun, great to get to know you better, Rob.
Remind me, had you done a marathon before?
I had done one marathon distance. It was my first marathon, October 2023 in Victoria, British Columbia.
So. Yes. You shared that with me on the day of. And this was obviously a bit of a different experience. Also, you came to Run with Rob kind of thinking you'd do a morning 8 p.m. and then like a 4 p.m. afternoon. And I suggested to you, talked you into switching the ideas around. How do you think it went? So maybe you want to talk a bit about the morning leg first, how it went. Like you were flying out there in the morning. You felt and looked great.
You're very kind. So as one does when they're runners, I think that we all sort of have a plan in our mind of what we're going to do. So I flew from London, Ontario to Fredericton to meet you and your crew. And I had, saw when I registered 8 a.m., 4 p.m. So I was thinking that in my mind. And when your colleague picked me up at the airport, she said, well, Rob's taking about a half-hour break in between legs. And I was like, let me see now. So then we chatted, and you're very gracious, and you were like, whatever you want to do. So runners' peer pressure is a real thing. I succumb to it a lot. And I just told myself, do the first leg. And if you're feeling good after the first leg, then take your break, have your nutrition and your hydration. You offered me your compression boots and the spacesuit boots. And I was able to do the second leg with about a 45-minute break. The first leg, I did feel good. I did feel good. The second leg was a bit hillier and windier.
Hillier, windier, hotter, later in the day. I will say this though, Marlene, when it comes back, I've talked at length on this podcast over the last 4 or 5 episodes about, and anyone who's listened to it has heard me say this, I think it's a lot easier to do them kind of, to not sit around and wait all day and stiffen up and, the mental anxiety about, oh my God, I got to run another 21 kilometers later today. So I was actually doing it, I thought, in your best interest. Like it was in my best interest, but it was also what I thought in your best interest. I'd seen the other runners. I'd seen James, and compared to the guys I saw last year that tried to do them back to back, and they were dead. They couldn't do it in the afternoon. So
I was probably in that same boat too. The second leg wasn't so great for me. And I just trusted your judgment and your experience. So I don't have as much running experience as you do. So I heard the information and I just did what I did. But I found the second leg hard.
I think, do you remember the day you came out? What day it was?
May 9th, Friday? I was there. Yeah.
May 9th.
And okay. I ran May 10th. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you say that you actually had the best out of anyone who's done 2 in one day, out of anyone who's done them over the last 2 years, you had the best combined time and the best second leg time. So
Huh.
you say you weren't, I don't know what you said earlier, but I disagree with that. You killed it. You
Okay.
crushed it, and
Well,
for anyone to do what you did is really impressive.
thank you. It was hard. The second leg was much harder. There was some
Yeah.
walking involved, as you well know. So,
Yeah, it
I don't
wasn't
like
that
to
much
walk.
walking though.
I don't like walking because I'm supposed to be running.
So I'm looking at our legs here. There was a lot of elevation on that second
Yeah.
on the second leg. There's a ton of elevation gain, 640 feet elevation gain. So that's
Oh,
almost the equivalent of Boston Marathon, but in a half, right?
okay. Well, now I feel better. Thank you.
So that's a lot of hills. And then, like, if you look at them there's some big hills on
Oh,
there. And then, if we think of walking, there was maybe, like, this includes aid station, maybe 10 times we walked over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So that's not bad at all.
yeah,
Like, and then I think, from what I recall, I think we either went down to trail or did we finish on a trail or on the finish on a trail, right?
the trail. That was nice. That was very
Yeah, it
nice.
was.
Yeah, felt good on my
What'd you
feet.
think of, it's the first time you're running in New Brunswick?
Yes, I haven't been to New Brunswick for a long time, so I specifically went out there to join you. So yeah.
Nice. And when you went out there, did you have a goal for? Because I remember the first one went pretty fast. I think you did 205 or something, 206. You could have easily done, like, I don't know, 150 or whatever you were able to do, for sure, 140, whatever. But I think you were smart to take it a little slower, considering you had two to do. How do you think that strategy went? The pacing.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. It was by design. I can do a sub two half marathon. I'm not a record breaker until I get a bit older. But yeah, I did. I made sure just to take it easy, not do it too hard because I knew I had a second leg to do, and
Is that a
I
goal?
know.
You mentioned till I get older. Is that a goal of yours? Do you want to break records?
No, well, it'd be nice if it happened. I don't know. I'm not quite there yet, but I think so. I guess I'll just put it out there. I think that given my age, so and gender, so that's all that how all that goes. I'm planning to do a marathon in the fall. It's a Boston qualifier, and I'm 51, and I could probably qualify if I tried and trained really well. So
We
maybe.
talked about this a little bit on the second leg. I recall you mentioned this, and I was like so excited when you talked about it. I was like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, you should
Yeah.
do it. You should do it. What do you have to run again? You got to run a 350?
Yeah, something
350?
like that. Yeah,
Okay.
something
So
like that.
350, and then you probably got to beat it by at least 5 or 6 minutes at least. So
Mhm.
345. So that's exciting.
It's tough. It's gonna be tough.
It's for
Yeah.
sure tough, for sure tough, but I think you can do it. You got a good stride, you got a good gait, as
Yeah.
my dad would say, good stride. And I think, like, you got experience. I think you've done races. Now you just have to decide. It's going to be a little bit of training, obviously, to get there,
Yes.
because you got to get your base up, probably, right? Because I
Yeah.
think you
So,
have the speed to do it, right?
oh well, we'll see. I do need to do more weight training. So that is, I know that's a fault of mine, and I watch my colleagues or my friends running, and they are incorporating more weight training, and that's not something that I have done. And I think that if I want to meet that goal, then I have to add that piece to my training more. I do
So
hot
that is
yoga
your
a
next
lot.
race.
Yeah. When is my next race? I'm doing a half marathon race in 2 weeks. So I never stop running. It's just a matter of, yeah, as you know, how much are you actually in a training block? Are you training right now? So, yeah. So,
I want to ask about that, because I find it very, 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 I've never stopped running either. And I find it almost impossible to train if I don't have a carrot, like if I don't have something at the end. How do you find?
yeah, I would agree with that. Like otherwise you're just running, and that's okay. And I reframe it and say, you know what? Some people don't run at all. So if I go out on a Saturday and run 18 kilometers just for fun, and there's no goal to have a race in mind, then I feel good about that. I still do. Like I feel like that's a nice goal just for that day. But yeah, I need, if I don't have a goal, I won't improve in my running, abilities.
So I want to talk a bit about you. You're a very strong advocate for the work that we do for CMV. And I'll get back to running in a sec, but I want to talk about your role as a CMV medical expert, or I guess, so you first off, you teach pediatric audiology. Am I correct there at Western?
Yes. Yes.
So you're a prof, you're a university prof, and you've also been chair of the Canadian Infant Hearing Task Force for most of the years where they were, I'd say they had a roaring success the years that you were chair, because you got universal hearing screening in every province while you were there, and you did it mostly through your report card, I would argue.
Yeah, well, that's how you and I met, so we can talk about that in a bit. But so yeah, I was the chair of the Infant Task Force for 6 years. I did 2 terms, which ended in just December, and we put out in my term 2 report cards. So 2019, and just today we released the 2024 national report card on the status of infant hearing healthcare in Canada. So yeah. So there have been some improvements. However, the status across the country is still not where we would like it to be. So we have work to do to get every child born in Canada access to hearing screening and the services that follow. And that includes screening for cytomegalovirus. So we're not doing so hot on that either. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first part of your sentence, which was just the hearing screening. So for those that don't know, newborn babies, I found this out at the hospital the first time I had a baby. They put something in the ear. I forget exactly how it works, but they basically screen for hearing in Manitoba and now in all provinces. But it wasn't like that, right? Like there were years where they weren't screening, and you guys did a report card. You guys did a report card, and you evaluated a data-based outcome of what the provinces were doing, how they were, what were they screening, how they were treating, education, all that, and you kind of published a fantastic document, which was the infant hearing report card. I forget what it was called, but the report
hearing
card
yeah.
And that was a big win. That one document, right? Huge.
Yeah, I would say, and it's had its run around. We share it with anyone we can talk to. You know what that's like to talk to policymakers and decision makers to say,
oh my God.
So it's nice to have data to support it and have it in a way that is easily digestible. So that's what we've done. Again.
Yeah, I think you're underselling yourself here a little bit, Marlene. I think that was the catalyst. I think you guys were the catalyst, and this is my unbiased third-party opinion. I don't know. This is just my opinion, but I think that was a huge catalyst in what got universal screening. We're talking about hearing screening for all the provinces. So, I mean, big congrats to you and everyone who worked hard on that. I still remember I still remember all the work you guys did there and how well it was received, and how you basically shamed in some way some provinces into, shape up. This is not acceptable.
Yes. And thank you for that. Yeah. There's work to be done because, again, a lot of provinces don't have the follow-up services. So if the baby does have screening and they don't pass, so our report card is showing, do they have the steps to follow to have a full hearing assessment by a pediatric audiologist? And if the child does have a hearing loss, they need, if the family chooses, hearing aids. And that also has to be done by a pediatric audiologist so that they can learn how to talk. So the screening alone is not what we're advocating for. We're advocating for, that's definitely the important first step, but we're advocating for the services to be provided after that, so families don't have to go searching for someone who knows what to do, basically. So,
that's such an important step. And for those that don't know, get a bit of background here, those that just listen to this podcast because Rob and Charlie talk about running all the time, this is another part of my life. This is the advocacy part, the part where I founded a charity and an organization that was completely dedicated to eradicating the number one cause of infant disability, which is cytomegalovirus, congenital cytomegalovirus, a virus that mom gets while pregnant. Virus attacks baby in utero in the stomach, and a baby gets, sometimes get some impairment. So this is a big part of my life. We worked hard. Our son was born with congenital CMV. So when we found out, we wanted to make a difference. My wife and I, we started this charity. We started raising funds. We started doing awareness. We hosted ball hockey tournaments. We raised, our first ever event, we raised like $2,000, and we were so proud. And then we raised, $100,000. And then I decided to run across Manitoba in order to raise awareness to that cause. And then I ran across New Brunswick. So this is part of that story. The story of me running across provinces is a CMV story. And that's why I want to bring Marlene on here, because you kind of alluded to it. And I think we made a TikTok video on this, but I want to ask you straight up, why is hearing so important for newborn babies?
So yeah, hearing is required for a baby to learn how to talk. So they need that speech input if they want to actually learn how to produce it themselves and understand the language that they're learning. So when they're born, their brain is ready to learn. And if they can't hear the sounds of their mom and their dad and their family around them, then they're not going to be able to learn those skills to actually make all the motor changes in their mouth to learn how to talk and learn the rules of the language that is spoken in the home. And on the other hand, if a family is deaf and uses sign language, knowing that your baby is also deaf just means that, okay, the baby also can't hear. We're going to ensure that we sign to the baby, because language is necessary for education, literacy, social emotional development, and overall well-being. But if you can't hear, you can't talk. It's as simple as that.
That is, it's like if you can't dodge a wrench, you can't dodge a ball, right? It's very, very simple. So thank you for sharing that. And I love how you're able to put these kind of complicated concepts in simple terms for us to understand. And those that don't know, this is a big part of my wife and I's journey over the last 16 years, which began when my son was born. And what happened is we found out that there was no screening for CMV. And I want to get to screening, which is my preamble here. There was no screening for newborn baby. There was screening for hearing, which Marlene's Canadian Infant Hearing Task Force was so good at getting. And, so my son got screened for hearing, but he did not get screened for CMV. And what happens with CMV, if you get CMV, it can be hearing loss at birth, but it can also be very often late onset hearing loss. So hearing loss that occurs at 1 month or 6 months or 12 months of age, which is very dangerous, because baby hears at birth. Mom and dad are told that baby hears at birth. Baby's got a congenital birth defect or congenital impairment, and then baby goes home with mom and dad, and then baby stops hearing at 6 months or a year, and baby's not able to tell mom and dad that he's not hearing, right? Which is why screening for CMV is so important. So that's my lead in to say, like, why are you taking all this time why do you care about CMV?
So you're absolutely right, Rob. So I'll just add, all the things you said is exactly right. And just like hearing loss, you can't tell by looking at a baby if they have been infected with the cytomegalovirus. And they can look completely normal, like a physically healthy newborn baby. And that goes for hearing loss or infection with cytomegalovirus. So by testing for hearing status and a blood spot or saliva spot for the viral load of cytomegalovirus, then we can know at that moment what is going on with the baby and act. So rather than what you just said, going, okay, everything looks okay, and then things can happen later on. So by knowing about the viral load of CMV right at birth, we can administer antivirals to stop the impact that the virus would have on the newborn, and hearing loss wouldn't happen, and any other developmental impacts and delays wouldn't necessarily happen if we're able to act. So we have the mechanisms to be able to screen for every baby when they're born for hearing loss and CMV, and that's and it doesn't happen, and that's why we're talking about it, because it's so critical. The information and the ways to do it are there. It's not experimental. We're not taking a guess how to do it. We know how to do it. It's being done in Ontario right now. So why is it not done everywhere else in Canada? So that's why we're here.
You sound like me.
I know, right? That's why we can run for 4 hours together and just keep talking the whole time.
Marlene, I must say, when you signed up, so Marlene is a bit of a superstar in our world, because she's very well respected and has worked so hard and is presenting in front of committees here in the government today. And I'll ask you about that in a sec. But when I saw that you signed up for Run with Rob, I don't know if I told you this, I was like starstruck a little bit. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to run with Marlene. This is going to be a great opportunity. And I was like, this is going to, like, because she's one of the few people I can think of. Like, I thought you were such a perfect running partner because one, you love running, clearly, if you decide to fly across the country to run 2 half marathons, just for fun. I don't know if I'll call it fun. That day might not have been fun. But one, obviously you love running, and two, you're as passionate about CMV as I am. So it was pretty special when I saw that you signed up for it. I was thrilled. I was really, really thrilled. So I want to thank you for that. Now I want to ask you what you're doing today in Ottawa.
So today I released the 2024 Canadian Infant Hearing Task Force report card on infant hearing health services across Canada on Parliament Health. So we did a press release today at 11. And I have been meeting with a couple of MPs and federal policy advisors today to answer some of their questions. And a colleague of mine was on the radio show, Vasi Capellos today. So listen for that, because I was otherwise engaged with another meeting, which is awesome. So I was here sharing it and hopefully drawing more attention to it and shining a light on the inequities that more than 1/3 of babies in Canada still experience.
It's crazy that I love how you mentioned it. So I've been saying we can identify it. If we identify, we can treat it. If we treat it, kids have a better outcome. Kids have a better outcome. Parents are happier. School systems are less loaded. Our healthcare system is able to function more, and it's a cost savings on the healthcare system. So all of these reasons are reasons to have it. But most importantly, that child, that baby can hear or, have less cognitive impairment. So for me, like our son, you talked about antivirals, our son, one of the reasons we did all this is because our son was lucky enough to be kind of randomly screened at birth because my wife was 10 days overdue, and there was a kind of an ultrasound and then some follow-up tests because like baby was really late, and that's how they caught the CMV randomly, pretty much random. It would have never been caught otherwise. And they told us that. They're like, yeah, lucky we did that thing because we would have never caught this otherwise. And your son would have lost his hearing and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I was blown away that was possible when a quick screen told us that he had CMV. So I said, why aren't we screening all the babies here? What's going on? They said, no, we don't do that. And then I started down this path, down this journey of getting universal screening. And now I'm into year 15 of advocating for this. And you said it's in Ontario, yes, and it's in Saskatchewan, and it's coming to Manitoba very soon. On Sunday, I'm going to run with Premier Wob Canoe after this is released, or probably before this gets released. I'm running with Manitoba Premier Wob Canoe, and he is making an announcement, and I'm cross my fingers, 99% sure I know what's coming, but likely to make an announcement about universal CMV screening in Manitoba. Alberta's committed $5 million to their budget for universal screening. So yes, you said it's in Ontario, it's in all these other provinces, and yet it's not happening in New Brunswick or Quebec or BC. All these provinces that you and I are going to have to run across.
Is that right? Hey, I was wondering what the next one's going to be.
Well, I think it. Everyone's been asking me that. I think the natural fit. Let me ask what you think, but I think the natural fit is either BC, maybe Newfoundland, maybe Quebec, or maybe like a PEI Nova Scotia combo. Which would be like do both in one shot kind of thing. What are your thoughts?
You're a pretty intense guy. So, Mr. 4 Ironmans. So that was an eye-opening thing I learned in the first few minutes of running with you. And I was like, oh, okay. this is gonna, okay. So that's impressive. So you are a rock
Yeah.
star.
Okay. Well, thanks.
So yeah, I just think that you do, like, whatever goal you set for yourself, you're going to be able to do it, and people are going to, be impressed by it and follow it, myself included. So you name it, and I will train for it. Not the whole thing though.
No, we'll get you to maybe do 2 legs again if we can.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your running group for anyone who's out there, because you have a pretty phenomenal background story. You didn't start running it's a fairly recent 8 years or something you started running, or 6, or I forget the
Yeah,
exact number,
6.
but you
Yeah.
started running so maybe, I mean, I follow you on Strava, so I know that you have a lot of running friends and you have a lot of really good running friends from what I gather. And you guys it looks like you have so much fun doing it because you guys do all these
Mhm.
races. So what does running do for you? This is a podcast about running and what it's done for my brother and I. It's the running journey. It's our journey through running
Mhm.
and what we gather from it. What does running do for you?
Well, it's a time for me. It helps me just sort of shut my brain off, sort of let go of things that aren't serving me. And of course, I know the importance of being physically active and healthy. So I've always been, physically active. And as you point out, having a goal is really helpful, especially when you have other responsibilities pulling you in different directions, like we all do when we're adults. So this is a way that I can carve out time. And then having the group that I run with out of a running group in London, we have meeting times every 2 days during the week and on Saturdays. And there's a lot of where are you happening, like, we are meeting at this time, are you coming? And if you say, like, there's no, oh, I don't feel like it, like, it's you go, right? And if you don't go, you feel like you wimped out, and then you feel bad about yourself, all the stuff. So we are very supportive, even in the winter months when it's minus 25 and a foot of snow on the ground, we are still going. I'm one of the few without a treadmill, so I will be outside running in the snow all year to run a spring marathon or whatever that spring race would be. So we're all supportive. We all know we have good days and bad days, and we're there for each other, and it's great.
I love it. I love it that you're almost accountable to this
Yeah.
group, even though you probably don't need to be, but it
No.
definitely helps on certain days, I imagine. And you guys, when you do races, from what I gather, you all go, like you were telling me one of your friends did an
Yeah.
Ironman, and you guys
Yeah.
all went and supported and just like did a
Yes.
whole weekend out of it. Or you'll do travel trips
Yep.
around a race.
Yep. So yeah, so there's a few, it's men and women mixed, and we are, especially some of the women and I, there's about 8 of us. We're all roughly around the same age, have big lives, and that's our time. So we are going, that's our travel time, and we book like a weekend away around a race, and it's just us, no kids, no partners, and we are there, and we are focused on this race, and we are all trying to do our best. And then when we're done, we have a good time. So it's really fun. And yeah, I watched my friend do her first Ironman in Montreal, and 3 of us drove up there together and cheered her on the whole day, long day. And then I'm going again to the Louisville half Ironman in August, because 3 of them are doing that race, and I don't do triathlons, but turns out now I'm a cheerer for triathlons. So I love that too.
Yeah, you kind of do it. I think if you go for the day, you're kind of doing it. Do you have
Yeah.
no interest in doing Ironman though, I guess?
No, I'm not like, I can swim. I swam when I was younger and did all that training. I'm just not, I haven't really grasped onto the cycling part yet. It's not calling to me yet. So for a variety of reasons, but I love cheering people. So
Do you
I will
think
do
there's
that.
ever going to be a chance that you're going to do one?
I don't know. Well, Rob, I don't know, because I said I would never do a marathon, and look at me now. So,
Yeah, look
right?
at you now.
So, yeah. So I
I
guess
think
we
if you
always
can
just change the
swim,
bar. I can
if you
swim.
can swim and if you can jog, I think you're like I didn't own a bike. I'd never been on a bike, and like when I did my Ironman, I that was the first time I was riding outside. So I don't want to say biking is the I mean, you might not be great at biking, but you can get through 180 kilometers. I'm sure you could get through it in whatever, 7 hours or something pretty easily. Just what I know about your level of fitness. Now that the key is going to be how much you have left, and are you
Right.
able to run a 4.5 hour marathon after? But
Well, this is the
what I
thing.
know about you, Marlene, I'm pretty sure you could do an Ironman if you wanted to. And I'm not saying you
Right.
should. I'm just saying if you wanted to.
I thank you for that. And I think the desire and motivation is critical.
Yeah, no,
I
if there's no
acknowledge
motivation,
that. Yeah.
it's like people will tell me that did run with Rob. They'll tell me, "Oh man, I trained, I did run with Rob, but Rob, I'm not gonna do any more running." And I was like, "That's
Oh,
fine. I don't care. Like if you don't do it, if you don't enjoy it, like you
yeah.
have to enjoy the journey and the end goal and the result and what it's doing to you and the time you're out there. Otherwise, like." Don't do it because Rob says it's good for you. That's stupid. You're never gonna keep doing it, right? So if you
Hmm.
don't, and obviously if you don't enjoy the Ironman, then don't, or the biking,
Yeah.
then don't do it. It's kind of like some days I wonder, like I really don't like the swimming in the pool. Maybe I was telling you this, how like it's like I dread it, and yet when I'm out of the pool, I love it. I feel good after I'm done with it,
Yeah.
but I dread the training, getting ready for my swims. So
Hmm.
it's kind of been holding me back from doing more races, but who knows? Okay, so I'd like to just talk a bit about some of the goals and some of the stuff you have coming up. So you said you're going to that race. You said you might try to qualify for Boston. Depends if you want to train for that for your September or October marathon. I think you said.
Yep. Yeah. Like I'm gonna sign up for Georgina. It's in somewhere, not, I forget the name of it's kind of north
That's
of
in
Toronto.
North. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the Georgian Lakes there somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm going to do that. My intention is to train as if, I am aiming to qualify for Boston, and we'll just see how it goes. So, I'm used to setting a goal and for some things and not meeting it. So I'm just going to try my hardest, and we never know what life brings, but let's hope injury stays away and, other parts of my life don't get in the way also. So of my,
Oh man, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you, and I know what qualifying for Boston, what that meant for me, the journey of getting there. To this day, it was the most fun journey that I've
yeah,
done. Was my build for my qualifying race for Boston, which was almost 2 years ago now. That 16-week period where my brother and I were sharing our races every day. This is before I was on Strava, before I would like text him my screenshots of my runs, and he was testing. It was like, I think it was during COVID or maybe the tail end of COVID, and that was just so much fun, that build. And you're surrounded by so many people who are going to support you. I'm excited for you, and I really, obviously, I'm going to follow along the journey, your journey, and I really, really hope it goes well for you. And I think you can do it. I really think you can do it.
thank
I
you.
saw you run. You're a good runner.
That means a lot. Well, and you're right though. So as much as like Strava, I feel that like this sometimes where I'm like, oh, my pace is really slow. I'm embarrassed, whatever. But I look at other people's Strava and I never go, I can't believe how slow they ran. Like no one does that, right?
No one
Like,
does that.
so I
That's
have to
not a
say that
thing.
to myself. Or like I feel like, oh, that's embarrassing that I didn't do well at that race. I don't want to post it because I know, that people feel that, and myself included. And then I think, well, I never think that about other people. So everyone's just like, good for you. You did it. Right. So yeah,
It's
everyone's
a
very
constant
supportive.
barrage of positivity, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've never,
Yeah.
I've never seen her jog and been like, hello, a little on the slow side. No, in
Right.
fact, last I recorded with my parents. I recorded a podcast episode with my parents, and it's up now. And in it, my dad says he ran an ultra marathon as a 13-year-old or something, and he says,
Oh,
my time was 9 hours and 14 minutes, and all of you guys laughed at me, when you were younger about that time, and I was like, whoa, Dad, whoa, I never laughed at you about that. That was in his head, right? It was in his head. He
yeah.
thought people thought that was a slow time because, just like you said, maybe he didn't feel he had a good day or whatever. But it's like, Dad, I used to brag about you to everyone I knew. My dad can do 50 miles. Like I was one of those guys, right? Like my dad's always been a hero of mine, and I've always been anyone who would ask, I tell him, my dad ran 50 miles, finished ninth in the province as a 14-year-old. Yeah, he did. My dad's a superhero. And yet here he is thinking that it was a slow time just because that's how we are.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
So
hardest on
Strava is good for
ourselves.
positivity, I think.
Yeah, we're hardest on ourselves, but it makes us want to try again, right? So I think we all have that drive, and that's why we keep lacing up our shoes every day, even when it's raining or snowing or getting up for the early workouts, because we have that goal. So I'm going to try to do that. You've made me say it out loud in this podcast. So I guess I got to do it now.
Yes. Yes. And it's like, do you enjoy the journey more than you enjoy the actual race? Or do you enjoy
Yeah.
kind of the climax of the race more than the journey?
I enjoy the journey. I enjoy, like, I have a moment when I am at the start line or wherever you are, close to the start line in the crowd, right before it starts. I have a moment because I've had that time where I trained, and then 2 weeks before the race, I got very injured to the point where I couldn't run the race, not even try to run it, because I was very injured, and that's devastating, right? So since then, if I make it to the start line, I give myself a pat on the back. Like, I am like, you made it. You accomplished getting here. So just run now. Just run. Trust your training and just run. So yeah, that's what I
You
do.
said that. You said that during
Yeah.
our jog, during our marathon. You said, I'm giving myself on the pat on the back just for being here because I'm trying
Yeah.
something that I was like, that's such a great attitude. You're right. You're at the start line for Run with Rob, and that's a win. Whatever happens after that is what it's going to be, but that's a win. I like that attitude. And then your training itself. How do you do it? Do you have a coach? Do you just kind of work off? I know you said you have some friends that run like Olympic
Yeah.
qualifier times, but do they help you out, or do you just find stuff online?
Yeah. So within this run group, it's like a store. It's called Backroads Brews and Shoes. So it actually is a running store with shoes and all the apparel, and it has its own craft beer and local craft beer. And coffee. So it's like a meeting place before and after, which is a great concept in my opinion. And they run running groups of different levels. And different distances. So I'm part of the marathon running group, and then through signing up for that, there's a coach and you get a training plan. So it's all written down, and then we follow those training plans, include speed work, hills, the buildup of all the different distances, depending on what your goal race is. You talk to the coach and get advice on anything that's going on with you or how you need to modify based on your goal race. So yeah. And then of course the group of people that I run with, but there's also a bunch of people who, like I told you, I see them when we start, but they're much faster than me, so I don't actually run with them, but they are quite accomplished too. So there's a lot of experience and information you can get from those people as well, and everyone's super great. So yeah.
Have you told your coach yet that you want to modify it for a 3:45 full marathon?
No, our end of year gathering is on Saturday, so maybe I'll tell him then. Yeah.
I'm not trying to paint you in a corner. I just know how much fun it was for me, and it was like the most, like when I stood on the finish line there, and my brother was next to me, and we had both qualified for Boston, and my dad was there to give us a hug because he had came out and he was crying, and it was like, you guys qualified for Boston. It was just one of the most special experiences of my life, and I wish it on everyone. It was so cool.
It's huge. Yeah, it's such an amazing accomplishment. And then, and then like there's so much, like the sky's the limit really. Like if you just keep being healthy and taking care of yourself and listening to your body, then you won't, injure yourself. And that's more my message to myself than anything. Then you've got a chance. It's it's amazing.
I find that the little that I ran with you for one day, I definitely felt like you were experienced. You were listening to yourself. You had a great plan for nutrition. You had a plan for hydration. You were, I want to say, in the kind of elite, not doing all the right things for not injuring yourself or taking care of yourself. So I hats off to you for that. That was great. One point I want to touch on, I remember earlier you were mentioning how we all like feel bad about our times or whatever. I ran Boston, and I think I told you this story. And I ran Boston, and I was injured and I hadn't been able to train. So I ended up deciding to run it anyways, and I did a 3:27 or something, and I was hoping to break 3 hours, but I knew going in I wouldn't be able to. And I remember like being so embarrassed to like tell people that time, like, oh my God, like people are gonna ask what I did. I'm gonna have to tell them. And now that I realize, like, nobody gives a shit. People are just happy for me that I ran it, and people could care less what time I ran, unless obviously I did a personal best or something. Then they would be really happy. But aside from that, they're just like, wow, you ran Boston. I'm so happy for you.
Exactly.
And here I am.
You ran the Boston Marathon. Period. You ran the Boston Marathon. Like that's incredible. Not everyone can say that they've done that or have done that. So yeah,
and that's why I want it for you. And I have this problem in me is when I run with people, I become like emotionally attached to their goals. So I always ask them what their goals are, and then I end up kind of following them, and I end up like, oh, they're close to their goals or whatever. So I'm not going to be a stalker, but I will check you out on Strava and see how your runs are going. I'm excited for you. Anything else you want to add about either your experience with Run with Rob, what you're doing in CMV, or your running? Anything you want to share?
Yeah. Well, I will add that so back to what you said about, when you saw that I signed up for Run with Rob, you were very excited. When I decided to sign up, and then decided to sign up for 2 legs and just getting closer to going and booking all my travel and whatever, I was very excited to go and experience, you running across a province. Like, as I said, when I first got there, and I can still feel it when I think about that moment, getting out of the car and seeing you and your crew, it was the closest thing I have ever and will ever be to Terry Fox. Like, it was amazing. Your crew was awesome, and just everything about it was an amazing and incredible experience. And I grew up in 70s and 80s, so Terry Fox is like this, huge, hero of mine. And you are the closest thing that I know to Terry Fox. So that, for me, just at the beginning, I was bursting, and I'm like, let's just run, because I'm so excited right now. So that's what I tell people. It was like as close as I'll get to Terry Fox. So congratulations. That was awesome. And you've done great things. And it was just so fun. Super fun.
Thank you, Marlene. I don't think I deserve that compliment, but I will say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's probably the best compliment anyone could ever pass me. So thank you for saying that.
Welcome.
Thank you. Terry Fox was,
if
I could be 1,000th of that guy, I'd be happy. But yes, that was great energy that morning when you came out. I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's go running.
Yeah, I knew nobody.
It was so fun.
So the context for everyone listening is Rob and I have never met in person until that moment. We spoke virtually to do a position statement for national universal screening of congenital cytomegalovirus, right? Like our associations, CMV Canada and the Infant Hearing Task Force combined and did this project. And that's how I met you. And then through that connection over time, we've stayed connected, never met in person. And that was the first time, we met in person. So it
was great. When I met you, it was great too. And you certainly didn't disappoint. You crushed your 2 half marathons, and you did it while smiling, and you did it while preaching, how important love was, how important running was, how important loving running is to you, and how important it is in your life. And also talking to me in my content about CMV and how important CMV screening is. So all that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that you came out, and it's a day I'll never forget.
Yeah, well, me either. It was amazing. So your crew was awesome.
Well, that's great. That's good. I'm so glad we got to share a little bit today. We'll wrap it up there, Marlene. It's about the amount of time that we had. And my parents also, I let them know that I was recording with you. They wanted to say hi, so they were also smitten by you. They thought you were fantastic and fun to spend. And Uncle Mo and Aunt Sue and everyone you met was really, really happy to meet you. And we're going to follow you, and we're going to wish you the best of luck towards your goals, Marlene. Thank you so much for all the work you do for CMV. Thanks for coming out and running with me, and thanks for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much, Rob. Happy to be here. All
right, we'll end it there, guys. Well, thank you. And Don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't forget to give us 5 stars. If you like the podcast and you want to, you know, give us 5 stars, write a review. Tell me what you think of us and make sure the review's positive though, right? Thanks so much, guys. We will see you in the next video.